My name is Noelle Hart. I'm 26 years old. I used to think dignity was something you only lost once. Turns out it happens slowly, in small moments you excuse because you love someone. My name is Noelle Hart, and until 3 weeks ago, I thought I'd found the man I'd spend the rest of my life with. His name is Adrian Park, charming, ambitious, and the kind of man who knows how to talk to people, not just with them. We'd been together for 8 months. I run my own small plumbing and maintenance company. Not glamorous, but solid. I built it from nothing, one leaky pipe and busted heater at a time. Adrian, on the other hand, manages a boutique downtown. Designer fabrics, champagne for customers, all that. He liked to say our jobs balanced each other. I handled what broke, he handled what sparkled. But lately, he'd stopped smiling when he said that. It started with little things. When his friends asked what I did, he'd say, "Noelle runs a small property service." Not, "She owns a company." Not, "She's her own boss." Just small. When I asked him about it, he said, "It just sounds better than plumbing. People don't get it." I should have heard the warning bell in that. But love has a way of making you hold your breath when you should be running. Last Saturday night was the breaking point. Adrian texted me mid-afternoon. "Dress nice tonight. I'm taking you somewhere upscale." He even added a little heart emoji. It felt like an olive branch after a week of tension. We got to this glossy downtown restaurant, the kind where the wine menu comes in its own leather folder, and that's when I realized he hadn't planned a date. He'd planned a presentation. 2 of his coworkers were already there, Lily and Ben, and Kara and Sean. All 4 of them looked like a magazine spread for people who've never had dirt under their nails. Adrian greeted them with a smile I hadn't seen in weeks. "This is my girlfriend Noelle," he said. He didn't look at me. "Hi," I said, shaking hands. "Nice to meet you." Lily's eyes flicked from my face to my boots. Not judgmental exactly, more like she was calculating the price bracket I belonged to. Dinner started politely enough. Sean talked about his latest promotion. Ben complained about his grueling 9 to 5. Adrian laughed at all the right times. I tried to join in, but every question came with a sharp edge. "So, Noelle," Lily said, swirling her wine, "Adrian says you do maintenance?" "Yeah," I said evenly. "I own a plumbing and repair company, residential and commercial. Been at it 5 years now." Kara's brows lifted. "You fix pipes? Like yourself?" "Every day." Ben chuckled softly. "That's impressive. Never met a woman plumber before." Adrian shifted in his seat. "Well, she manages the business now," he added quickly. "She doesn't really do that stuff anymore." That wasn't true. I'd fixed a burst pipe that morning. I smiled tightly and took a sip of my drink. The food came. $45 steaks, sides that looked like art projects. Halfway through dinner, Ben mentioned a trip he and Lily were taking. "Bermuda next month," he said. "All inclusive. You guys should come." Lily grinned. "Oh, Ben surprised me with it. 6-month anniversary gift." Adrian leaned forward. "That sounds amazing." Then, louder. "Noelle and I haven't really done anything romantic like that yet." I froze mid-bite. I looked at him. "We talked about Costa Rica, remember? You said you wanted to wait until summer." "That's not the same thing," he said. "Costa Rica's nice, but not like a real getaway." I blinked. "What makes a getaway real, Adrian?" He gave a thin smile. "You know, the kind of trip where you don't have to think about work stuff." Lily giggled. "I get it. When you're dating someone with a 9 to 5, it's easy to plan those things. But business owners, always working." "Right," Adrian said. "Exactly." His tone was light, but I could feel the sting under it. Then Kara leaned in. "Sean took me to Napa last month. Wine tasting, spa days, the whole thing. It's so important to feel treated." Adrian nodded. "See, that's what I've been saying, Noelle. Some people just get it." My stomach turned. "What exactly do you mean?" I asked quietly. He smiled at me, the polite, brittle kind he used when customers complained at his store. "Just that you've been comfortable lately, content, but I want more, you know? I want a life that looks successful." The table went silent. "Looks successful?" I repeated. Adrian shrugged. "You run a small business out of a truck, Noelle. That's not really the image of stability." It felt like a punch to the chest, not for the insult, but for how easily it came out of him. "Stability?" I said. "You live in my house, Adrian." His jaw tightened. "That's not the point." "Then what is?" He didn't answer right away. Then, softly but clear enough for everyone to hear. "You can't even keep up with me, Noelle, let alone build a real future." The words hung in the air, heavy and final. Lily's fork clinked against her plate. Sean looked away. I wanted to cry or yell or throw something, But instead I laughed. Quietly. Just once. Keep up with you? I said. You work retail, Adrian. I own my company. Don't do this, he whispered. Do what? Remind you that I've been paying for your groceries while you chase image? He exhaled sharply. You're being dramatic. I signaled to the waiter. Can I get the check, please? Adrian's face went pale. Noelle, stop. You're making a scene. I'm not, I said calmly. I'm leaving. The bill came. $150 for 6 people. I pulled out 2 20s, set them down. For my dinner, I said. Adrian stared. You always pay when we go out. I met his eyes. You just told me I can't provide for you. I figure it's time I stopped trying. Then I stood up, grabbed my coat, and walked out. No yelling. No tears. Just the quiet click of my heels against the marble floor and the faint echo of someone realizing what they'd just lost. Outside, the night was cold. The city lights smeared across the wet pavement, blurry like melted glass. I didn't cry until I got home. Because the thing about humiliation is, it doesn't hit when everyone's watching. It hits when you're alone in the dark, realizing you paid for half a dinner and 8 months of pretending you weren't enough. When I woke up the next morning, the house was too quiet, like it was holding its breath, waiting to see if I'd break the silence first. The coffee machine hissed once and then stopped, like even it didn't know what to say. I sat at the kitchen table staring at the chair where Adrian used to sit, laughing over headlines, pretending we were the kind of couple that fit perfectly. Now all that was left was the faint imprint of a person who'd mistaken embarrassment for ambition. My phone buzzed across the counter. Adrian. You made me look like a fool. Adrian. Please don't ignore me. Adrian. Kara had to cover my half of dinner. Can you Venmo me? I read each one twice, then flipped the phone face down. The sound of it hitting the table felt louder than his words ever had. By afternoon, I couldn't stand the stillness, so I went back to what I know best, work. At the hardware store, the smell of sawdust and metal grounded me. Somewhere between the plumbing aisle and the checkout counter, a familiar voice said my name. Noelle Hart? Wow, it has been forever. Tessa Vale. She was still exactly as I remembered her. Warm eyes, quick smile, that quiet steadiness people naturally lean toward. She wore pale blue hospital scrubs, a badge clipped crooked on her collar. We fell into conversation like time had only paused, not passed. She'd moved back recently, working as a nurse at the new medical center. When she asked what I'd been doing, I told her about my business. Her smile widened. You own a plumbing company? That's incredible, Noelle. You always said you'd build something yourself. No judgment, no subtle correction, just pride. It hit me how rare that was. Before we parted, she said, we should grab coffee sometime. I've missed having normal conversations that don't involve IVs and heart monitors. I said yes without thinking. When I got home, there was a note taped to the door. Staying at Ben's for a few days. We need to talk when I get back. Don't make this bigger than it is. Adrian. I tore it in half and dropped it straight into the trash. If silence had weight, mine finally felt heavy enough to crush what was left between us. Coffee with Tessa turned into a conversation that lasted 3 hours. We talked about everything. Work stress, sleepless nights, how adulthood felt like balancing on cracked tile. She listened the way good nurses do, eyes steady, hands still, no rush to fix, just present. When I mentioned Adrian, she didn't ask for gossip. She asked, did he ever make you feel seen? I couldn't answer. The silence did it for me. That night, for the first time in months, I slept through until morning. Days became lighter. Tessa started showing up with small gestures. Coffee, homemade soup, laughter that filled the corners Adrian's absence had left empty. She never pushed. She just existed beside me until I remembered how to exist, too. Work picked up again. My phone pinged constantly with new clients. Every message from Adrian stayed unread, digital fossils of an argument long buried. A week later, my mom called. Noelle, that boy Adrian rang me again, she said, half amused, half disgusted. Said he made a mistake and wants to explain himself. I groaned. Please tell me you didn't entertain it. Oh, I told him plenty. Told him my daughter doesn't do return policies. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in weeks. That Friday, Tessa invited me hiking. We climbed until the city disappeared below us, the wind colder, cleaner. You ever notice how people chase perfection just to avoid being real? She said. Yeah, I replied. Some chase it so hard they lose the people who already love them. At the top, she looked out at the horizon and said quietly, you're stronger than you think. And for once, I believed it. The following Friday night, the quiet broke. I was sanding cabinet doors in the garage when headlights flashed across the driveway. Adrian's car. He got out, drenched from rain, carrying the same arrogance like an umbrella, open but useless. "Noelle," he started, voice cracking. "Please, just give me 5 minutes." I didn't stop working. "You had 8 months." He stepped closer. "I can fix this." "Adrian, the only thing you ever fixed was your hair." He flinched. "You think this is funny?" "No," I said. "It's sad. You mistook my love for free validation." Before he could respond, another car pulled in. White sedan, headlights slicing through the rain. "Tessa." She climbed out, holding takeout and a bottle of wine. Her eyes flicked from me to him. "Everything okay?" "It is now," I said. Adrian's jaw tightened. "Who's this?" "Tessa Vale," she said before I could answer. "And you must be Adrian." The quiet that followed felt like thunder trapped in glass. He turned to me. "You're kidding." "I'm not," I said evenly. "I told you once I'd rather be alone than small. Turns out I'm neither." He laughed once, the kind of brittle sound that breaks before it finishes. "So this is it? You just replaced me?" I met his eyes. "No, I replaced the version of me who needed your approval to feel enough." Tessa set the takeout on the porch rail. "You should go," she told him softly. "She's not yours to fix." Adrian stared at her, then back at me. "You really mean that?" "I do." He nodded slowly, eyes clouded with disbelief. "You'll regret this, Noelle." I opened the door wider. I already regretted staying. He left without another word. Rain swallowed the sound of his car until there was nothing left but the hum of the storm. Inside, Tessa exhaled and leaned against the wall. "That looked hard," she said. "It wasn't," I replied. "It was overdue." She smiled gently. "Then let's eat before the pad thai gets cold." We sat on the living room floor with takeout boxes between us, wine glasses sweating in our hands. Lightning flickered outside, painting the room in brief, silver light. "Do you think he'll try again?" she asked. I shrugged. "He might, but I'm done leaving the door unlocked." After she left, I stood at the window watching raindrops race down the glass. Each one reflected a fragment of light, 1,000 tiny versions of me staring back, none of them afraid anymore. For the first time, the silence wasn't empty. It was earned. Because letting go wasn't the end of the story. It was the start of hearing my own voice again. The next morning, sunlight poured through the blinds like it had been waiting for permission. For months, I woke up to the smell of Adrian's cologne and the sound of him criticizing how I made coffee. Now, all I smelled was fresh paint and clean air. Peace has a scent. It's somewhere between lemon cleaner and freedom. I brewed a cup, opened the front door, and stepped outside barefoot. The world looked the same, but it wasn't. Everything was sharper, truer. Maybe because I finally stopped looking for validation in someone else's reflection. The following week blurred together in color and noise. The good kind. Work calls, laughter, music in the van. Tessa and I didn't label anything. We just moved together naturally. Sometimes she'd stop by between shifts, hair pulled into a messy bun, still wearing her hospital badge. She'd sit on the counter, sipping coffee, while I recounted ridiculous customer stories. Other times, she'd drag me to the farmer's market, insisting that buying flowers counts as self-care. It wasn't some grand, cinematic romance. It was simple, steady, and real, which made it extraordinary. 2 weeks later, my mother called again. She never says hello, just starts in mid-thought. "Guess who called again?" I sighed. "If you say Adrian, I'm hanging up." "You're safe." This time it was Kara, that fancy boutique friend of his. What did she want? To tell me she thinks you won, whatever that means. I laughed. "It means he's miserable, Mom." "Well," she said, "maybe next time he'll think twice before insulting the woman paying his electric bill." She paused. "You're really okay, aren't you?" I smiled. "Yeah, I think I am." "Good," she said, "because I like this version of you, the one who remembers her worth." Later that evening, while I was reorganizing the tools in my van, I found a small box wedged under the passenger seat. It was one of Adrian's cufflinks, silver, engraved with his initials. I turned it over in my hand for a long moment. Once, I'd cleaned those cufflinks for him before a job interview, proud like his success was mine too. Now, they just looked like tiny pieces of armor for a man who always felt smaller without his image. I walked to the trash can and dropped it in without ceremony. It landed with a hollow clink that sounded like punctuation, a period at the end of something that didn't deserve an exclamation mark. That weekend, Tessa and I took a drive to the coast. The ocean was gray and restless, waves slapping the rocks like they were trying to get someone's attention. She sat beside me on the hood of the truck, a blanket draped over both our legs. "You ever think about him?" she asked softly. I thought for a moment. "Sometimes," I said, "but not with anger anymore, just clarity." She nodded. "That's the real ending, you know, when you stop wishing they'd understand." I smiled. "I think he finally does, though. Just too late." 3 days later, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Hey, it's Adrian." I wanted to say I'm sorry. You were right about everything. I read it once, then twice, then deleted it without replying. Some apologies aren't meant to be accepted. Just acknowledged privately before you move on. 2 months later, I ran into Lily at a coffee shop downtown. She looked different, thinner, tired, like life had chipped away at her edges. She hesitated before approaching. "Noelle, hey, you look great." I smiled politely. "Thanks. How are things?" "Oh, you know," she said, stirring her latte, even though it was already cold. "Adrian moved back in with his parents. He's been kind of lost." I raised an eyebrow. "That's unfortunate." She nodded, forcing a laugh. Guess success wasn't as easy to fake as he thought. We said goodbye, and as I walked away, I felt lighter. Not from vindication, but relief. There was no satisfaction in seeing someone fall apart. The victory was in knowing I no longer had to be part of it. That night, Tessa came over with Thai food and an idea. "We should paint the guest room," she said, glancing around the hallway. "Something bright, a new color for a new chapter." We spent hours with rollers and paint cans, music playing, laughter echoing through the house. At one point, I stepped back to admire our crooked handiwork, streaks of light sage across the walls, and realized I hadn't thought about the past all evening. She caught me smiling. "What?" "Nothing," I said. "Just feels good to build instead of repair." Tessa grinned. "You've been doing that all along. You just forgot it was for yourself." Later, as she dozed off on the couch, I sat beside her, phone in hand, scrolling through old photos. There was one of me and Adrian, his arm around me, both of us smiling at something that must have seemed important at the time. I looked at it for a few seconds, then hit delete. The image faded from the screen like a curtain closing on the final act. Voiceover, final narration. Adrian wanted a love that looked perfect on paper. I wanted one that felt real in the quiet moments. He got applause. I got peace. Funny thing is, only one of those lasts. The camera would linger on the painted walls, the soft laughter in the background, the evening light spilling through the window. Because that's the truth no one tells you. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. Sometimes it's just living beautifully after someone tried to make you feel small. And that, more than anything, is enough.